Hacker News Network presents HNN Cast with your host, Space Rogue.
HNN Cast is sponsored by Astaro, simplifying security, and by TrustWave Spider Labs, providing advanced information security services to planet Earth. Become a sponsor. Email sales@hackernews.com.
This is Space Rogue for the Hacker News Network, and this is HNN Cast for the third week of January 2011. Our top story this week: the tightly knit community of security researchers grew increasingly concerned this week with the unusual disappearance of Dancho Dancho. Dancho, a security consultant, cyber threats analyst, and blogger for ZDNet, based in Bulgaria, suddenly went quiet back in August. He stopped blogging, responding to emails, or tweeting. The conspiracy theories ran rampant for a while, as people thought he had been the victim of foul play, possibly at the hands of the cyber criminals he worked so hard to profile. However, he was found resting peacefully in a psychiatric hospital in Bulgaria. There is still some speculation as to how he got there, and if his stay is voluntary or not, but at least he's been found. For this next story, we have to take you back to June of this year, when a company known as Goatsea Security found what they called a simple flaw on the AT&T website that could allow someone to download the personal details of iPad users. Unfortunately, Goatsea Security didn't notify AT&T right away. No, they first made a script and grabbed as much of the info as they could. Over 5 days, they grabbed 120,000 names and emails of iPad users. And then they tried to shop the story around to various press outlets. Of course, AT&T didn't like that too much and called in the FBI. The FBI executed a search warrant against Weave, aka Andrew Weinheimer, and arrested him on unrelated drug charges. So here it is 6 months later, and it looks like someone has provided authorities with 150 pages of chat logs that show Weave and Jackson Brown, aka Daniel Spittler, discussing what to do with the emails they collected and how to get, quote, max lols, unquote. Earlier this week, the FBI arrested Weave and Jackson Brown and charged them with fraud and conspiracy to access a computer without authorization. Each charge carries a maximum punishment of 5 years in jail plus a $250,000 fine. Now that's a lot of lols. The New York Times published a big story by Stuxnet this week. The piece, co-authored by John Markoff, attempted to point the finger at the U.S. and Israel as co-authors of the worm designed to take out centrifuges at Iran's nuclear power plants. The report says that Israel and the U.S. worked closely on the project and tested the code at the Domina complex in Israel, which is evidently set up exactly like the Natanz nuclear site in Iran. However, not everyone agrees with the New York Times, and citing inaccuracies in the timeline and the lack of any verifiable sources. No one that the Times spoke with was willing to go on the record, so all you end up with is a senior official said, which is not really any sort of proof at all. That leaves us right back where we started, which is pretty much nowhere. Anyone could have written Stuxnet, but no one is talking. Evidently, Augustus87 wasn't too happy with Frogster, the owners and operators of the online game Runes of Magic. Augustus87 has claimed to have access to the account names and passwords of 3.5 million users of Runes of Magic and is threatening to release this information gradually to the public unless his demands are met. Augustus87 seems to have a lot of demands, but mostly he wants Frogster to ease up on its strict moderation of the game's forums, implement better online security for its users, and engage in more transparent practices with its customers. Sounds pretty reasonable to me. Frogster says the data he has is old and should not be a concern, but at the same time, they have called in the authorities to investigate. The European Commission on Wednesday had to suspend trading in greenhouse gas emissions permits at the Austrian Emissions Trading Registry after carbon permits worth millions of euros were stolen in a series of online attacks. According to the EU Commission, the emissions trading system had been the target of, quote, recurring security breaches, unquote, over the last 2 months. The last 2 months? The Commission might want to take a look at some old HNN footage. We reported on a defacement of the London-based carbon exchange site back in August, and a targeted phishing attack against German Emissions Trading Authority back in February. And that's not the only attacks that have occurred. Either someone really doesn't like carbon trading, or there's a whole lot of money there. I suspect the latter. We'll be back with more HNN Cast right after these messages.
Hi, my name is Bobby, and you're watching the Hacker News Network. I'm in Shmoocon Hotel, and you're watching the Hacker News Network.
Hi, I'm Tan. This is and you're watching the News Network.
Bye, 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 bye.
Welcome back to H&N Cast. You know, if it wasn't for the New Hampshire data disclosure law, there would be a large number of breaches that no one would ever know about. Hopefully, other states follow suit and pass similar laws. One of the breaches that recently came to light as a result of the New Hampshire law was one that affected the Pentagon Federal Credit Union. This credit union is set up to service federal government employees, obviously, and this breach affected 514 people in New Hampshire. With a total membership in the credit union of over 1 million people, you have to wonder just how big this breach was. However, since New Hampshire is the only state with this sort of breach notification law, we only know about the people in New Hampshire who were affected. Hopefully, other states will pass similar laws soon. Another breach recently reported because of the New Hampshire data disclosure law occurred at Seacoast Radiology of Rochester, New Hampshire. A server there was breached that contained records for over 200,000 patients. But the primary goal of the intruders wasn't the personal information. No, it was to commandeer the server and its bandwidth to play Call of Duty Black Ops. What is this, 1992? A few recent high-profile defacements to tell you about. A website for developers at IBM recently had its main page replaced. 3 websites run by the Democratic Unionist Party in the UK had their contents translated to Gaelic. Several Turkish government websites and even the Louisiana governor's homepage have all been defaced. And in Australia, someone using the handle Evil, who claims to be from Brazil, defaced the University of Sydney's homepage. In case you thought web page defacement aren't a problem anymore and went away in the 1990s because you don't hear about them anymore, well, let me tell you, it's really the exact opposite. With lots of relatively new ways to deface a website, such as cross-site scripting, directory traversal, SQL injection, frame injection, etc., web page defacements are more popular than ever. The ZoneH archive, which monitors defacement activity, indicates that hundreds of sites per day around the world are being broken into. There are a lot of groups and individuals taking credit for defacements, such as Iran's Black Hats team, UAH crew, Latin Hack team, Dr. Plus, Leon, and POMHack, among many others. So keep your security up to date and watch your web server. Of course, it's not only defacements that are causing problems, but malware spreading as well. Sites as Home Depot, Harvard, MIT, Stanford, and other high-profile sites have had portions of their websites compromised to spread malicious software or even just malicious links. The problem is especially rampant on PHP-based sites, including those running popular software packages such as WordPress. So keep your software updated and review your code now and then. We told you about the Bunana Trojan a few months back. It is unique in that it is the first known piece of malware to infect both Windows and OS X machines. However, it appears that the Bunana Trojan itself has some problems and can be easily compromised. According to Symantec, vulnerabilities within the Trojan can be exploited by other attackers to collect information about the system, or could even be used to take over the botnet or create a completely separate parallel botnet. According to Symantec, the current split of botnet infections is roughly 84 to 16 Windows over Mac. We'll be right back with Tool Time and the H&N Quickies right after these messages.
Copying is not theft. Stealing a thing leaves one less left. Copying it makes one thing more. That's what copying's for. Copying is not theft. If I copy yours, you have it too. One for me and one for you. That's what copies can do. If I steal your bicycle, you have to take the bus. But if I just copy it, there's one for each of us. Making more of a thing. That is what we call copying. Sharing ideas with everyone. That's why copying is fun.
Does everybody know what time it is? Space Rogue.
That's right, it's tool time again. First up, list DLLs, handle, and process monitor from SysInternals have all been updated. Maltego 3.0.3 was released. The new splash screen is pretty damn hot. And Saint, or Security Administrator's Network Tool, is now officially supported on the Mac. Black Hat DC has got a lot of folks in overdrive this week, and tools have been a part of the fallout from that. Microsoft in particular has released two tools. Attack Surface Analyzer is used to compare the state of your system before and after you install software. It will highlight what resources an application depends on and what changes it makes in addition to enumerating possible security issues. And BinScope Binary Analyzer is a Microsoft verification tool that analyzes binaries on a project-wide level to ensure that they have been built in compliance with Microsoft's security development lifecycle requirements and recommendations. BinScope is for .NET 2 and later. And on the non-Microsoft front, AutoDiff Online is an online service that performs automated binary differential analysis between two executable files. It was designed to diff PE files, so while it's not from Microsoft, it is limited to the portable executable format. Also, El Jefe is a Windows-based process monitoring solution from Immunity. El Jefe produces a unique view into how processes are created, what privileges they possess, and what child processes they spawn. All of this information is stored and categorized into a central logging server, which allows a user to quickly see any suspicious behavior that could indicate compromise or malware proliferation. Seems like there's been a focus lately on situational awareness. Good for you guys. We love to see tools that make securing your more user-friendly. We also like to see tools that make busting into your more user-friendly. And there are two of those worth mentioning this week. Inguma version 0.2 has been released. Inguma is a penetration testing toolkit written in Python. It includes modules to discover hosts, gather information, fuzz targets, brute force usernames and passwords, and launch exploits. This early release is light on the exploit side, but provides a Python framework with a GUI, and everything else is quite extensive. It's up at Google Code. Speaking of Python-based pen testing frameworks, WAF is now better, stronger, faster, including a 15% performance boost in scan speeds. No more SQLite either, but it's hosted at SourceForge. So be careful, okay? Anybody know if they got their shit together yet? That's it for this week's Tool Time. Join us next week for our salute to Tool Time. And now a few quick stories we found on the net this week. First up, celebrity news. Fans of Selena Gomez can rest easy. She wasn't really swearing all over her Facebook and Twitter accounts with hateful and profanity-filled messages. No, someone else broke in, probably through an easily guessable password. Lil Wayne also suffered a break-in of his Twitter account, and although we can't be sure, we suspect it was probably also due to a weak password. Lil Wayne took the unusual step of deleting his entire account after numerous fake tweets were posted. We're still not done with Silverpop. The third-party mass email provider has dropped millions and millions of email addresses belonging to the likes of McDonald's, Walgreens, DeviantArt, and Honda. Now you can add one more to the list. UGG Australia, maker of the popular UGG boots, has begun notifying an unknown number of customers about the breach. I suspect we will have a few more companies to add to this list before it's all over. Organized crime has gotten into the online gambling in a big way, at least in South Korea anyway. Officials have arrested at least 2 men accused of launching DDoS attacks against 109 rival online gambling sites. Free North Korea Radio, which is run by defectors from North Korea, have reported a massive DDoS attack that has paralyzed its website for over 4 hours last week. The station called it a blatant attack by North Korea. Well, maybe the North didn't like having its YouTube and Twitter accounts breached last week. The online site Trapster, which uses crowdsourcing techniques to find and catalog police speed traps, has started notifying its users of a possible breach of 10 million email passwords. 10 million? Damn, I know I use that site. Can't remember which password I used for it though. Unfortunately, Trapster has declined to say if those passwords were hashed or in the clear. Now that the US Cyber Command is fully operational, the UK feels that they need to have one too. General Sir David Richards, Chief of the Defence Staff in the UK, has called for the UK to build their own Cyber Command. The UK Cyber Command will not only protect the country from online strikes, but unlike the US, at least publicly anyway, the UK Cyber Command will launch its own attacks. With the end of the year comes the end of the year security reports. SonicWall has one that says that Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time is the most active day for threat-related traffic, which is why all the bad guys I know do their dirty work on Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. It's less crowded that way. Trustwave, an H&N sponsor, released their Global Security Report for 2011. It features analysis of more than 220 data breach investigations and more than 2,000 penetration tests conducted by Trustwave's Spider Labs. And Cisco has released its Global Security Report as well. We have the link for it and the other reports at hackernews.com. The BritoLab botnet has a new attack vector, resumes. If you are soliciting resumes from online job sites, be careful that those Word and PDF files aren't infected with Trojans capable of cleaning out your bank accounts. One small, unnamed company lost at least $150,000 that way. Are you a fan of the Yukon Huskies, and did you buy some Husky swag from their online store? You may want to keep an eye on your credit card receipts. The HuskyDirect.com database, which contains billing information for 18,000 people, including credit card numbers and security code, has been compromised. You might be better off buying your swag from Sacred Heart or Yale. You have an old girlfriend or boyfriend who pissed you off and you want a quick, simple way to exact your revenge? How about a DOS attack against their phone? The website clamtext.com will now allow anyone to send up to 4 text messages an hour to any phone. Now that would be pretty damn annoying. Oracle shipped 66 critical security patches this week. 66! If you are an Oracle, apply your patches. 66 holes. Damn! A few months ago, 2600 Magazine came out with the Kindle edition. Finally. And now you can actually subscribe to it instead of having to buy it each and every quarter. Personally, I'm waiting for the iPad edition. And no, the Kindle app for iPad is not the same thing. And that's all the quick stories we found on the net this week. That means it's time for your Con Fu.
Con Fu is sponsored by Source Conference, a global security, technology, and business forum.
If you thought you were going to go to B-Sides London, well, too bad. It only took 8 days, but the London edition of B-Sides is sold out. You might wonder how a free event can be sold out. Well, they do have to limit attendance, so if you don't sign up early enough to these things, you don't get to go. Although the call for papers is still open, so if you really want to go, submit a talk. Speaking of which, registration has opened for B-Sides Cleveland. That's right, Cleveland. Like I said, security is everywhere. You want to go? Register now. And B-Sides San Francisco has already hit 300 people registered. I don't know what the limit is, so again, go register. Right now. Well, after H&N Cast. Another con that constantly has ticket shortages is ThoughtCon in Chicago. Tickets are still on sale, if they haven't sold out already. So if you want one, get one. Oh, and sorry about using the old logo, guys. Hope I got the right one this time. The Hashdays Con in Switzerland is getting a jump on things and has already announced their dates for this year as October 26th through the 29th. Mark those calendars. If you're into application security at all, you should try to get to the OWASP Global Summit happening in Portugal early next month. This isn't a con, it truly is a summit. Participants will stay in a shared housing and work together to further the field of application security by collaborating to produce tangible progress towards influencing standards, establishing roadmaps, and setting the tone for OWASP and application security in general for many years to come. If you're interested, there is still time to register. Registration has opened for the 7th edition of PH Neutral in Berlin, to be held in May. Registration may not be the correct word, as PH Neutral is pretty much invite only. But if you want to go and you know someone, you can still fill out the registration request. Oh, and rumor has it that this might actually be the last PH Neutral. HackKidCon happened in Boston last year, but they are already trying to expand for 2011. They are currently looking hard at Atlanta and San Francisco as potential future locations. If you think planning for a regular con is hard, try doing it for 100 or so 10-year-olds. If you're interested in getting involved, they're always looking for presenters, volunteers, and of course sponsors. We have the link at hackernews.com. There are some rumblings coming out of CanSec West this week about Pwn2Own contest. You know, break into the equipment and own the hardware? Well, evidently they are thinking of adding cell phone basebands to the list of hardware that will be available for breaking. 2011 is definitely shaping up to be the year of mobile device attacks. ShmooCon is coming up this weekend in DC, and H&N will be there. If you're lucky, we might even have some t-shirts with us, or you could just order one off the website. Weren't lucky enough to score a barcode to ShmooCon? Well, you can relive last year's con with some Behind the Firewall episodes available on the hackernews.com website. Check out the one featuring the Shmoo Bus. That's my favorite. If you're jonesing for more con news, take heart in the fact that it's only about 190 days or so until the big one, DEF CON 19. And now for the stack of shame. There are only 2 weeks left until ZDI drops trowel on any reported vulnerability open more than 6 months. Some people have said it won't happen, that ZDI wouldn't dare to release that many unpatched vulnerabilities. But all signs that we see say that they will do exactly that. According to the folks over at ZDI, there are 19 vulnerabilities that don't have a vendor commitment for a fix by February 4th. Well, it's 2 weeks out now, and 46 vulnerabilities on the list still meet the criteria of being reported over 6 months ago. My guess is February 3rd will be a busy day at ZDI. So here's the list of all known open vulnerabilities as cataloged by the Zero Day Initiative.
Welcome to the real world.
That's it for this week's H&N Cast. I've been your host, Space Rogue, and you've been watching the Hacker News Network.
Remember, if you have any news you think we should report, send it to news@hackernews.com. You have been watching H&N Cast. This is Space Rogue for the Hacker News Network.
Funny do bad things.